This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code Socrates at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenrail radio playlist. zenrailclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Portian Bakery. If you're located in the Portian area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Portian Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great, you know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself. Definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. That's good. Yeah, so that was weird that it was like not working, but I guess you have to really restart your computer often. You know,
well, I wouldn't say necessarily often. I think just if there's any issues, then the first thing is to restart.
True. Okay, yeah, fair. I never actually shut off my computer, so that was weird that it wasn't working. I was like, what's going on with this thing? You know, right before we started. But actually, that's a great lead into Apple, because I thought it was planned obsolescence. I thought they were trying to kick me out of like this current setup. So we talked about it last week, but is there anything interesting that's coming out, Apple?
It was like a very quick video, like 30 minutes.
Oh, is that why they were like, oh, okay. Is that why they were like, oh, speed?
No, I think
the marketing,
yeah, I guess it could be both. Yeah, you could say it's for that as well as that is M3. So
oh, so they announced the M3.
Yeah, all of the chips for M3 for MacBook Pro and iMacs.
Okay, nice. So then that would suggest that M2 chips are going to go down.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so maybe that's the time to move over. Like once the M3's out, and then you have the option of like downgrading to like M2 or M1's not the move though, because we were saying
like
multiple...
I was like waiting for, like the MacBook Pro's got the M3 and the iMac's got M3. The MacBook Air is still on like M2.
Okay. I guess it would still be the Pro though, because they have the inputs on the side.
Mm-hmm.
I have like for my other computer, which is like a MacBook Air M1, you need like the plugins, but then the plugins are starting to die because they've been in the in that one position for a long time. Yeah, it's been fried. I didn't know that was a thing. Like, so people who buy like, I saw that there's two options. Like, you can either use the wired one, and then that can extend to like other devices. Yeah, like you can like have HDMI port, right? And then there's another one that's like a solid one that you just plug into the side, and it's not like wired. I was like, maybe I should have went for that one, because that one
actually that would make more sense. Yeah, that probably would make more sense. I think that any bend to the wire would degrade it over time. Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy. It hasn't even been a year for that additional wire. Like, if I just even nudge it like slightly, it'll like disconnect my monitor. I'm like,
so like it's like where you buy it too, right? It's the product, the quality, it's all these sort of things that come into play in this kind of thing.
Yeah. Tech is so like I don't like the term touch and go, but it is touch and go. It's like it's good for a little, and then there's a point where you're kind of like, I need to upgrade this thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised with the monitors. There's all these memes going around where they're like, oh, this video game can now handle 4K ultra resolution, but you're still running the old monitor that you had like from like 2016, you know? So it's like, it doesn't even have the capability. So all the gamers are like, oh, this is sick. But it's like, you won't even actually see that unless you upgrade your
of course. Yeah, if you have the actual monitor.
You know what's actually so crazy? That when we were kids and I was playing Halo, and my parents bought me a TV for my room, okay? But it was like tiny, so I didn't really like to play Halo on that thing because it was so small. But the quality was better, and I didn't know that. So we were playing on this big screen. Do you remember the big box that I had in the basement at my parents' house? Or we'd always play on it, right? And then I moved it up to my room because I wanted to like play online. And then all of a sudden I saw the heads up display and I saw all these little graphics that I had. I was like, what? Like,
Right.
where's this been? But it's because the big TV in my parents' basement, like, it doesn't support friggin' that level of,
Well, I think
you know,
it's
pixel.
yes, because those times we didn't have it was not HD, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Yeah.
the images were more it's more like stretched than actually when it's
Yeah.
on a smaller TV, it's more all the pixels are a bit closer, I guess. So it's like you get a
Yeah.
much more better, a clearer image than on a
Yeah,
bigger screen.
totally.
Yeah.
But it's so funny how that worked, right? Because, like, we thought it was so, like, impressive that it was such a big TV.
Yeah.
Remember, it was like literally a box. But then it's crazy when you think about it because it wasn't even in 1080. Like, it wasn't a rectangle. Remember, it was like a
Yeah,
giant square.
Yeah.
Because that's when TV, like, if you don't know, you listen to this, but like, we didn't move over to like 1080, the wide angle,
Yeah.
until much later. You know,
Mhm.
it started off as kind of more or less
I
like a
think
square.
I think yeah, I wonder I think that's called full screen. I'm not sure at that time, but
I guess, yeah, maybe, yeah.
But
Yeah,
there
weird.
was no such thing as a 1080. It's just not even HD. It's just
Yeah, right. Actually, we used to fake it as like videographers. We'd put the black bars on the very top and bottom, make it seem like you
yeah,
had
yeah,
like
yeah,
wide
yeah,
angle.
yeah.
It was like, no, you really didn't. It was the same screen, just like cropped.
Right.
Yeah. Weird. It's like, yeah, that was so innovative at the time. And then you're like looking at more and more like tech innovations as time goes on. And you're just like, why did I think that was cool at the time? You know?
Well, it kind of makes sense. It's probably the best of the time, right? It's always going to
Yeah, no,
be
totally, totally.
right.
But it's weird how your brain like will match the quality. So like there's all these memes that I'm seeing on these like 90s kids pages where like you thought this was the hyper realistic, but then you look at its polygons. But at the
Yeah.
time when you're a kid, you're like, dude, this is so lit, yo.
Right.
You know, but then like you see it now, you're like, what was I thinking? But then what about in the future when you're like playing these even more high fidelity games, and then you're like, what was I thinking with this? You
Exactly.
know?
Yeah. I think
That's
now I feel
wild.
like now we're adding words like as of like for now, like it's really good today's time or something like that. I feel like that's
Oh, good for now.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
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 I know
yeah,
what you're
yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Like
Like
at this,
up to this point.
yeah. Like
But like,
we can
where?
imagine like where it's gonna go, right? Versus like before, I think as kids we just didn't really pay attention to this kind of thing. It was just like, oh, this is so cool.
True. And could you imagine like being a parent walking by? You're like, why do they think this is awesome? It's just like a bunch of square people.
Yeah, like
But we're like, oh, I love it. You know?
no, but like for
Like,
them or
yeah.
like I don't know if it's just for them, but it's like before it would have been like going from black and white to color. Like that's such a huge thing,
True.
right?
Yeah. True. Or like silent pictures to like sound. You're like, oh, now this has
Exactly.
sound.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I guess you wouldn't have had like silent pictures in those days.
No. It's much more.
Like,
That's
you
like
know,
one in the beginning. Yeah, that's like way almost
yeah.
probably 100 years ago now. But yeah.
Yeah, wild. That's such a weird mind shift to see like how the trends have changed and like certain movies. Like I find that if the movie wasn't graphically updated, like they didn't use CGI or like special effects at the time, and it was like rom-com stuff like that, you know,
Yeah.
where it's like they're not really adding stuff in, it's still watchable,
Yeah.
you know. But then there's like this point, I guess like anything before 1990, where you're just like, I can't really watch this. You know what I mean?
True. But I feel like I agree with that. But then like watching Corridor Crew and it's like them like these are things that were stepping stones to get to where we're at. If we didn't
No,
do
for sure,
those
for sure.
things, then you know what I mean. Like if you're just only stuck
Yeah,
with
yeah.
non CGI, thinking that this is going to end up looking bad in the future, but then there's no
Yeah.
actual progress to happen.
For sure. But it's weird to think like there's a cutoff point where like movies are just unwatchable in today's standards. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like we could watch. Hold on one second. Oh, this is unimportant. Sorry, I'm just gonna silence my phone. I thought that was an important text. I was like, oh, it's not. So it's weird that like when you look at old school movies and then what I'm really thinking about is Ocean's 11. Okay, so I didn't know that was a remake. Did you know that was a remake?
Maybe probably later on, not at the time.
Not at the time, right? And like I can watch the Ocean's 11 one still because it wasn't CGI, right?
Mhm.
But then if you watch, I mean, there's certain things like why are you using a flip phone, whatever. But it's like whatever. There's a time.
But
But then
I like those though. Sometimes I like that to see like, oh yeah, we did have those gadgets back in those days.
yeah,
Like you forget
true.
like what
That's
we
true.
used.
it made like heist way easier, because like technology now. We'll get into that
Yeah,
right
yeah,
after this. But so Ocean's 11. This is not at all what I was thinking we were talking about, but like this tech issue just like sparked my brain. So like Ocean's 11, when I first saw like the original, like obviously when you see the 90s one, you thought that was the only one. But then recently I was like, oh, it's a remake. So then you look at the old one, it's like black and white or something, and they're like too old school. I'm like, I can't watch this. But like anything before 1990, it almost seems unwatchable because like it's just too old, you know what I'm saying? Or
hmm
maybe not even 1990, maybe like 1980, I would say. Because like there's certain movies like, do you remember like Jackie Chan movies? Like, okay, I can kind of watch these.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But there was a point there where you're just like, anything beyond this time, like I can't watch those old school, like Citizen Kane or something like that, or Cujo, like those really old ones,
hmm
or like well, I guess maybe Exorcist you can still watch because that was kind of like dolls,
But they make it.
But
Yeah, it's much more. It's filmed differently in the darker
yeah,
tone.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
totally, yeah. It's not like, yeah, that's sort of like when you see ultra HD stuff. I think we talked about this before, but like with the Marvel movie with Thanos, I couldn't watch the Ultra AVX one because it was too clear. And then when I watched the rendered down version, it was like darker, and I was like, okay, I can get into this movie because it doesn't look like weird costumes.
hmm
Yeah. Okay, wait, going back to heist. It's weird when you watch like Ocean's 11 and you're like, oh, I could totally see how you could take advantage of this. Like, oh, cell phones, like there's no GPS tracking, there's no
Right.
like
Yeah, yeah,
facial
yeah, 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 yeah.
recognition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When they put like facial recognition in the heist movies, you're kind of like, oh, this is so advanced technology. But now it's like all of our phones have facial recognition.
hmm
You know what I'm saying? So like maybe that's why they kind of just stopped doing like those heist movies because it's impossible to rig anymore. Like even the Mission Impossible one. Remember
Yes.
talking about that one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it was more of like just the grandioseness of what he was doing, but it didn't feel like a Mission Impossible. It wasn't very spy like,
No. Yeah. I don't know.
right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But
That's
it's like,
true.
how could you be a spy when like you have GPS data, you have like facial recognition, you have fingerprint stuff, you have like, like how do you escape this kind of world of complete immersion? Yeah.
Yes. I don't know. I think that's something that would be like, how are we doing it today? Like, what
Yeah.
are our spy people doing today? Right. I think it kind of has to fit in some grounded or in reality. Like, what can they
Like,
do in reality
for sure, for
versus
sure.
they can't? Right. Like some of these things in the movies it seems too far fetched now. Like,
Yeah, fair. But like how would you even get rid of like how would you even escape with a crime now? I don't even know how.
well, I can
You know
tell
what I'm
you,
saying?
I
Like,
understand what you're saying, but there's a story about not a story, like the thing about that happened in like the Air Canada thing where that whole gold thing was stolen. Do you remember that real story?
no. What's that?
Oh,
Goal?
gold, like gold bars.
Gold. Oh, what? It's recent?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like in a few months.
Oh
Like,
no, okay.
yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
no,
They're
no, I
suing
don't.
like the basically it was a hijack or not hijack. It was like in a movie, like through a movie type of story.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I'll show
wow.
you. I'll show you once you look it up. Yeah, like so. There's an actual
Okay.
story that they're trying to find out how they did it.
Wow.
So they're
Okay,
like,
that's
I
interesting.
believe the company or whatever is trying to sue Air Canada because it was under their thing and somehow like I don't know if it was
Yeah.
people working within Air Canada or things like that. That's the whole part of the investigation to find out what exactly happened. How did this even happen? That it actually
Ooh,
a real story of
that's
how it actually got.
interesting.
Yeah, how did it get stolen? Yeah.
So it was like a real life heist that was like set like a movie.
Yes. Uh, well,
Wow.
I mean, like the plot of it's like a movie because we still don't know how it happened. But yes, there's a real life
Right.
heist that actually happened. Yes, in
Oh,
in,
that's cool.
in Toronto. Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of cool. I didn't hear about that. But like, I guess for me, the only thing that I would be thinking of is like a digital heist. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I understand, but like I think,
crypto
yeah,
stealing, but I didn't
yeah.
think that this would be possible. That's cool.
Well, yeah, it happened. But now we have to find out
Okay, so
how it happened. So,
it totally defeats my my argument of like you can't steal anything anymore because technology's too good. I guess it's not. That's
mm,
crazy. Mm. Yeah. The the weird like surveillance aspect of it though. All right, so those people were like really thinking about, you know, like how do we game the system?
Sure.
Okay. But like it almost also feels like mass surveillance now, you know? Like I feel that way with like speed cams
Sure.
cuz like they're putting them everywhere and I guess that's like an aspect of automation,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because now we don't need as many police officers with the speed blah blah blah, and then you just like use the camera like red light cams and stuff. But it's almost like you're very policed in a way. Like, what if there were speed cams everywhere? There's only on certain streets. I don't know why it's only on certain streets, but if they put them everywhere, like that would feel like some crazy totalitarian, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, how could you possibly? Do you have any idea why they don't put speed cams just everywhere? Like, if they really
Well, I
want
think
police traffic,
the focus was mainly around school areas, right? School zones for safety.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense because all the ones I'm thinking of are all school zone
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's also very
Because I remember.
it's a very lucrative for the city.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
The
for
money.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally, for sure. I remember when I was working at the bakery, and shout out bakery, if you guys are listening right now. And when I think it was like 2012 or maybe earlier, 2008. I can't remember when I was working there. I was like in university, and the bank, Scotiabank and TD Bank would always, no, not TD Bank, Scotiabank would always get robbed because it's right next to the highway, you know?
Okay.
And I'm like, could you pull that off now? Like, I don't know if you could pull that off now.
Uh,
I mean, you could pull it off, but like, could
Sure.
you get away with it?
Mm-hmm.
You could be reckless and just like go in, like whatever. But like, it just seems so daunting to think that you would outsmart all the surveillance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how could your car not be tracked with?
Well,
like,
yeah, that you'd have to have the whole different thing where it's like has to be first probably a stolen car, right? Or like the plates have been
Fair,
changed, right? There's things like there's you gotta really think it through if you really want to rob something, right?
But like even that, I don't know. It just seems like you can always trace it down. You know what I mean? Like you just have to. Like I mean, that's why Tupac's murder just got solved. That's like you just got to wait long enough, and then the detectives will catch up.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Sometimes that happens. Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess like random ones, like mugging people on the street, won't really.
I think that the hardest thing, like I think the robbing thing is a bit different. There's cameras there to record these things, but like random murders, that's what's hard to solve, right? Because it's like there's no. It's hard. Like it's just a random person who's doing it, but like if there's no way to really track it, sometimes it's hard to. Like if you know the area where with the camera areas and stuff like that, because it's just if it's more easier if it's to catch someone that's done things before,
like serial. Totally.
Like they've got a motive,
There's, like,
there's some sort of pattern. But if it's a random thing where it's like there's no pattern, or maybe there's a pattern but we just don't know what the pattern is yet.
True.
That's when it's harder to catch someone.
I think from my own personal perspective, like even like the one and only time that I got robbed, shout out France if you listen to this, when we were like walking back from we went to like Wonderland, and then this was like a long time ago, and then like these like 7 dudes ran up and they like separated us. Anyways, I'm not gonna retell the story, but they kind of got away, and it was weird because I was like, okay, there's no way they're gonna catch these people because it's just like random robbing, right?
Sure.
And then we went to court for it. They found the people. And apparently they were like robbing people in the area. So it wasn't just like me. It was like they were on a robbing spree. So that's why, they got caught. But it's just like the detective work that they go through is pretty fascinating.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they get They'll get a lot of the calls, so they kind of
caught them.
Yeah.
And it's like the technology is just getting even better. I just feel like there's no way you're gonna outsmart them. Maybe before in like the 1990s when like the tech wasn't there and like whatever, but now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't
a lot
know.
of things. I mean, as technology grows or science stuff, like a lot of the stuff that wasn't solved or being solved
Yeah,
after finding like the DNA stuff, right? That technology wasn't there. A lot of
right.
people got away
Dude,
with
that's
it,
crazy.
but then they were able
Yeah.
to once the DNA technology was there, they were able to catch those guys much more, like actually give
Or,
proof that it was this person.
or even with like wrongful accusals, like there are
Yeah.
people in jail and then now they're getting out because of like
The
different
even the
technologies.
DNA, yeah, the DNA
Yeah,
would prove that they weren't the ones. Right.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So it's like a double-edged sword, right? Like we think it's like,
Sure.
oh, it's a police state. This is so bad, but it's like, no. Imagine being back in the day. Imagine being back in the day when it's word for word.
Mm-hmm.
Like imagine if you were like a colored person and then a white person was like, "Hey, they robbed me," but it's like it's word for word. Like there's no
Yeah.
evidence. There's no nothing. And it's just like, what are you gonna do about that?
Mm-hmm.
And you know that that happened in like the South.
Yeah, and
You know.
it was like a
And
recent story too. That was someone was wrongly convicted, was released
yeah,
for a rape charge that was proven. I don't know how it was proven that it wasn't him, but probably the DNA stuff too.
yeah, totally, totally. And like that's good for them, but it does suck to think that we will we will not have like we'll not have solved everyone before they're dead. And
Yeah.
it's almost like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? It's almost like that point where I was saying where you can't watch movies from this certain point backward. It's like we kind of got to cut our losses and go forward, like being, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's impossible to go through every single case and like with all the DNA and like reissue. I only know about this because Kim Kardashian's super into this, and we watch the Kardashians, and like that's her big mission, like getting people out of jail for wrongful accusals.
Right.
Um, so like, yeah, it's weird to think that there's going to be a point where this will not be an idea. And then as kids watch that, they're like, that seems so archaic. Like, why would you go word for word? We have XYZ in terms of like technologies,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Which made me think like,
Well, it also proved, right? Like I think over time, even word for word, people don't actually remember exactly
totally,
the
exactly. Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's what science also showed. Like it's, I think eyewitness is actually not a good witness.
Right. I remember when I was in university and then there was like this criminal psychology course or something, and then they were talking about gun focus. So I actually just sat in this class and like because Sid was taking it when he was like in
Mm-hmm.
that program. And I was like, oh, I just want to learn about this. So like I remember this lecture where they were talking about like gun focus, and you can't trust eyewitness testimony because if you hold a weapon, the person's going to focus on the weapon, not the person. And
Right.
then they fill in what they think
Mm-hmm.
the person looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, that was like, okay, so just like rob somebody with a weapon. And then if they call you, you're like, hey man, gun focus. You know, like that's like a loophole. But really, we can't trust eyewitness testimony. You know?
It's not good evidence. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's why
not good
you need to
evidence.
have video, or like these are like much more better
Yeah,
proof.
totally.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a really good. Okay, I hope I remember where this old lead point was going to go to, but I have the story. So last night, it's funny, like memories. Okay, so last night we picked up something from like Facebook Marketplace, but the chair was too big. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we the only way we could get it was like if we tied it to the top, but we were like, oh, it's not fitting the car. Oh man, I don't have any ties. We were just like outside, trying to figure it out. And then all of a sudden, this lady she like looked at she came out of her house and I was like, oh, we probably look sketch. And then she was like, hey, do you guys need ties? And I was like, oh, so shout out to that lady. Where she's like, it looks like you're having trouble fixing that to your car. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. And then she actually tied it for us and like we drove home. So like we were
Yeah.
able to get the furniture home. Okay. But then I woke up this morning, I walked past the furniture and I was like, oh, that happened last night. But I didn't remember. I like had deleted that whole story. So it's like that huge ordeal and
Right.
I had
Right. Right.
forgotten about
Right.
it
Right.
until it was triggered by that thing.
Right.
So it's like, how can you trust memories, bro? Like, like I literally didn't remember till I saw the thing and I was like, oh, that happened. And then everything started coming back. It was like,
Right. Right.
oh yeah, we tried to tie it. We tried, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Has it ever happened to you where you're just like, wait, what? That happened? You know?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I
Right?
forget a lot of things, or I tell that. Sometimes I don't remember it. Like, we did that. When did
So
we do that?
Right. And so it's like, so how do you even trust like eyewitness testimony at that point?
Hmm.
Because it's like you're in such a panic. Maybe it's because I was such in a panic state. That's why I don't remember it. Because it was just like everything was just like, oh, how am I going to solve this? How am I going to
Right,
solve
right,
this?
right, right.
So like you're flustered.
Hmm.
And then, because even driving home, you had to like put the hazard on. Okay, I got to make sure that I'm
Yeah,
driving
you're
slow
driving
enough.
slow. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
such a panic state.
Yeah.
So maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
more like
so
a
glad.
panic / stress state that you're just going with the flow, not really thinking necessarily, right? Like,
Yes, yeah. It's like when
or
you're
like
driving home
processing.
and
You're
then
not
you're like,
processing what's happening. You're just let's just get
yeah,
home and then
totally.
we'll think about this
You
tomorrow.
ever
It's
have,
kind of like that.
yeah, totally. And like those moments when you're like driving home and then you don't even know how you got home.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm home. Oh, okay. Like your
Mm.
brain, you've done this pattern so many times. It's like, or maybe you're like,
Autopilot
I
a
don't
bit.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe like I was an autopilot trying to put this thing. I'm not sure. Like, but that is kind of weird that I totally forgot this moment until I saw the thing. So
Mhm.
it's like one, that is pretty bad for eyewitness testimony. But two, it's like, how many parts of our lives are we forgetting, bro? You know what I mean?
True.
In a whole day.
Yeah,
You,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah.
what's really crazy?
I think if
What's
it's like
crazy?
if it's a repeated pattern you're doing daily, like
Yes,
you won't remember if I did that like on a Monday or did it on like like a different day,
bro.
because if it's the same
Yeah,
repeated
no.
pattern, right? Only
Yeah,
if it's
memories are
different.
so
Yeah.
faulty.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's the crazy part about like work too. Especially if your work week is like you're trying to get one thing done or something, or it's like a very repetitive task. And then you don't remember which day was which day. Or
Hmm.
like you'll wake up and you're like looking at, oh dude, it's already November. Like what's going on?
Yeah, yeah.
You know? Right? Like time it was I don't know how to explain this, but like as we fall into our routines as we get older, it's almost like time bleeds together.
Yeah,
It's not
sure.
like when you were a kid, the milestones were like Christmas and
Mm.
like, oh, next week we're having a pizza party and stuff like that. And then it felt like every week was like so much stuff going on, right? But then now it's like because we've done the same thing over and over, you just look up one day and you're like, oh, it's Christmas, and then you look down and you look up and you're like, oh no, it's like New Year's, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's so weird. Yeah. But all right, so it made me think about too, like this whole conversation, that there's gonna be a point where people don't know who Tupac is.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
So
it's probably already exists
it
now,
was
right?
right, and it's wild because I saw this post of like, so basically G Shock Seiko. I follow this like watch company. Oh, Nixon watches,
Mm.
and Zoomies was putting this promo for the Nixon watch Tupac edition. And I was like, I wonder how much that's going to sell because who remembers who Tupac is?
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even during our time, that was kind of
We were a bit.
kind of, you're
Yeah.
like, who's that? Oh, okay, I can still kind of get into the music, whatever, right? But like if you're young now, it's not Tupac for you. That's like, who cares about that guy, bro?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then, again, it's like there's going to be points where it's like we can't look back. You can only look forward.
Sure.
Like these movies, I'm sure our parents probably think of Titanic. They're like, "Oh, Titanic was so crazy when it came out," but now we're like, "Titanic? What? I didn't even watch that movie." You know what I mean?
Mm.
Weird. Like the impermanence of everything is weird
Sure.
because
Yeah.
we think it means so much to us in that moment, but it's only for you.
Yeah.
Like Halo was a time only for us.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like no kid now is like, oh, I got Halo. Like, you didn't play 1 and 2, and like, it wasn't like a big thing
Sure. Yeah.
for you guys.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know how to explain because like there are certain people that like love to flex on that. So okay. So somebody was saying, this was like a year ago or something, and they were like, oh, I gotta buy my niece shirt from Spencer's,
Okay.
and it's the Rolling Stone shirt, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
then she's like, okay, right? And then so it's like the mouth and the tongue sticking out. It's like a t-shirt, right? And then she's like, I can't believe she knows who Rolling Stones is. And then I wrote back, it's probably just a pop culture thing that they don't even know who it is. They just like the logo,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then she's like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then like other people were chiming in, "Oh man, like yeah, that's true. Like I've noticed that as well." And then like I guess like a week later, she bought the thing and she's like, she commented back like, yeah, she didn't know any of the songs. She just wanted it because like her friend. I'm like, yeah, that's where we're headed. It's just like it's these archaic pieces that that we wear, but you're not really into them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like
Sure.
collectively, this is cool.
Yeah. The meanings change or whatever it is it's probably they were like it's like became a big meme, right? It's a different reason why they liked it than what it was originally for.
Yeah,
or from.
and what's wild, yeah, totally. And what's wild too is like if you listen to their music and then you don't like it, so then you're like, so why are you wearing the shirt, bro?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Actually, this is interesting. I was talking about this sorry, I was thinking, I was like, wow, we're not going to do any of these things, but whatever. So I was thinking about uh what I'm gonna watch next after One Piece. Okay. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna grind through it and watch Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT. I'm just gonna do because I did One Piece. Like I'm at 835 now. So I'm like on the home stretch. Like let's just get to 1030 and then I'll wait for it to come out, then I'll catch up, right? So it's like 200 episodes. But Dragon Ball's not that long. It's like Dragon Ball, the first one was like 200 episodes, and I think Dragon Ball Z was about 200. So it's like, okay, I can power through that, right? But the person I was telling this to, they were like, but I thought you said it sucked. I'm like, yeah, it does suck, right? The first episode, I was like, I can't really watch this, but I'm going to do it because I want to know what it is I'm supporting. Because I love Dragon Ball in my mind. But it's like, do you really love Dragon Ball? So it's like, right? It's like the shirt. It's like, yeah, you wear the tongue thing, but do you really like the music? Or are you just like following a trend that you only half know about?
Sure. Okay.
You know
Yeah. Okay.
It's also like why I read the Bible, right? Because I'm like, what's going on here, guys? Like, do we really? I guess that has like a lot to say about humanity, right? Like we really don't know, but we'll follow like an idea of an idea. So what I mean by that is like, here's the truth. Somebody reads that truth. They give you an idea. So we're following the idea of someone else's idea.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't. It's like secondhand knowledge, and then we fill in these gaps of what we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
yeah.
Like with Dragon Ball, it was trash, but you're like, and then it was like, oh, Dragon Ball, but then you're like, guys, it was trash. Let's just admit it was trash.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, I feel like that's probably for a lot of the kid stuff where we watched as kids too. It's like, I think it's the memories that were from it that we more necessarily are positive towards than necessarily the show. I feel like.
Yeah, totally. It's the nostalgia feeling that we're like anchoring to. Because if I really think about how many episodes of Dragon Ball Z I watched, oh yeah, you're gonna say
no. I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to think of, like, was Beast Wars? I know I enjoyed watching those as a kid, but if I tried to look up the videos because I was like, I think I had like a VHS tape of like a few episodes of a series, and it ended off on a cliffhanger. And I was like, oh, I never got to finish this actual series. So I was trying to find something to watch, and I don't even know where it is in the seasons. But like I was looking at it, I was like, I can't watch this because the graphics are so bad. So bad. But I remember like, it was so good at the time.
Yeah, it was so good at the time. Yeah, it's like the video games, the polygons. You're like, oh, this looks sick. Oh no, it's not. Like when you really look at it, it's like, no, this is not good.
But like, I think that it was just at the time watching these things. I think I think it was just the enjoyment or the fun you were having watching it. I felt like that's what you're remembering, not necessarily the show. Like
no, for sure,
right.
It's the cultural moment. Sure. That's what really picked it up, right? Because like Dragon Ball, I was thinking about like how many actual episodes did I watch of Dragon Ball Z? Maybe like 50 because they were just in reruns, you know?
Yeah.
The whole episode, like when I looked at the whole thing, like the list of episodes, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of episodes for Dragon Ball. Like, it's not that much compared to like One Piece, but
sure, yeah. But it's like one of the first ones,
like,
right? Yeah.
Wait, which one? Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah.
Yeah, that came to the West, but they didn't have every episode. So it was like they would repeat a lot of it, right? And then they totally skip an arc and then they come back, whatever. And like I always wondered how it ended,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Oh, right.
So,
Okay.
but you know what I'm saying? But it was like thinking about it culturally, it's like, but that is what forced me to like want to fight with you guys all the time. Remember when we were like kids, we're like, oh, let's go fight, you know? But that was because of the Saiyans. You're always like watching them.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, was the show good, or was it just that like that iconic piece of watching the Saiyans fight each other for like
Sure.
strength and
Yeah,
supremacy?
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. It was like Pokemon. Was
Yeah,
Pokemon good? I remember that was huge.
right.
Was
Yeah, it was
Digimon
like,
good? I loved Yu-Gi-Oh. I
but
remember that, but was it
yeah,
good?
I know. But was it good? I don't know. That's why you gotta like go back with a clear mind and just like watch the whole thing. And that's why I love like that we live in this digital space now. You can actually access these things for
Yeah,
free,
sure. Yeah.
you know, and like everywhere, you know, because like you just stream it,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. Yeah. Yeah, we're like so I don't know. It's like the abundance of the abundance of access and the amount of information we can get is just so fascinating to me now.
Sure. Yeah.
You can really like delve into things. But you know what's weird? That like there's a point where people don't want to I was having this conversation with this person and basically it's like we were both critically thinking. Like how you and I do, like in this thing, right? It's like, oh, did that thing suck? Did this? Well, how does this work? Whatever. Like, we'll just have a conversation about it, right? And me and this person were like kind of pushing that kind of energy out into like the
Mm-hmm.
bigger crowd, but we were getting like a little bit of like, you guys are weirdos,
Sure.
you know? And then, but then we were talking to each other and we're like, oh yeah, it's like this, da, 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 right? And then I was like, I hit this point where I'm like, I think it's just people's unwillingness to critically think. That's where the divide is. Because it's like, how come, like, I can give you the information, like, hey, this is the truth, but you won't look at it. And it's like, why? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking it's like, oh, there's just unwillingness to critically think. And what he said was, no, it's their unwillingness to do hard work. And I was like, I think you're onto something. Because you need it's not like physical hard work, but it's like you have to be able to like push through your ideas of I might be wrong.
Right. Yeah. That's an
Yeah.
emotional strength, right? To understand that it's not.
Interesting. Yeah.
I feel like if these things are connected to your, emotional being, like, then
Your ideas are your identity.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, my idea is like this is who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel like that's where the disconnect is, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not agreeing with somebody because it's just you're too emotionally attached to something, to an idea.
Yes. And it's just like, but
So that
that's just an idea, bro.
in a way, it's like, yeah, exactly. But in a way, what do you mean? I think also hard work in the sense of understanding that this is emotional connection and not an actual thing that's going to hurt you.
Yeah, no.
Right.
So what? Like, okay, let's deconstruct this because like, I couldn't do it with that person. It would just take too long. But like, how, like, what is that? What is that thing? Yeah, I think it is an emotional strength. Okay, but it's like, do you have to first know that you're separate from your ideas?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where it has to start. Where you like you can't you as a person, shouldn't be emotionally connected to these ideas. Things change, right?
No, but okay, for sure. But maybe it's like, do you have to first understand that you have a mind? Is that where it starts? Because how many people are just like running on autopilot where they don't realize that their mind is in large part like painting the picture of their reality?
That depends on, I it could be, but it all depends on where they're at in their understanding of self.
No, for sure. But like, do you think that's a starting point? I'm just wondering, like, where's the kickoff point? Where just like, if you just figured this one thing out, it'll just like domino effect the rest. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't have an answer to that one.
There's a thing in jiu-jitsu that they talk about. It's like principles, and basically what it is like, and I've noticed this too. So in all martial arts, the highest, okay, so I've studied under a lot of teachers in martial arts, right? And when I started teaching martial arts, I noticed that they were making stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like there was this one time that I was in the back room training at like one of my first martial arts places, and then the grandmaster came in and he just started attacking me. Just like throwing punches and stuff. And I was just defending. And then he stopped and he's like, okay, cool, we're teaching that. And I was like, how did like, oh, this is what you're all doing. It's like we don't have an infinite number of techniques. We just understand the principles of how to get to a technique.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if I can defend myself in this, like it's like if you understand the core concept of a thing, you can build through your own imagination multiple other iterations of that thing. It's like if you know 1 + 1 = 2, so then you're like, okay, I know addition. Or I don't like you get what I'm trying to say. Like if you know like the fundamental building blocks like addition, subtraction,
Sure.
multiplication,
Yeah.
division, that's all, or like bedmass for
Yeah.
mathematics, that's all you need. And then they build these crazy equations using that principle. See what I'm saying? Like derivatives of that thing. So it's like for me, trying to reduce it to its like lowest common denominator. Like what is that thing where somebody goes from being like, I don't want to listen to anything to like, oh, I can implement that or not. Like the cheat can do, take what is useful, discard what is not,
Sure.
add what is creatively your own,
Mm-hmm.
uniquely your own. So what do you think?
I think that's it's training the mind to be critical.
It's the mind. It is right, but it's the mind and it's critical of the mind, but it's like if you don't know you have a mind, or no, maybe it's this. Everyone knows they have a mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know that they are not their mind. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
It's like we all know we have thoughts, but your thoughts are not you.
Sure. Yeah.
They're
okay.
just
Mm-hmm.
who is the watcher of those thoughts? That's you. The fact that you can actually observe a thought, that's the real person.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you realize that, you're like, okay, so if somebody throws an idea out, it's just a thought. I don't have to attach to the thought. That thought's not me. That's just I'm watching these thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that would explain why, that is one of the fundamental components of spirituality, like yoga. Like that's one of the first things they try and get you to realize that like you are not your thoughts.
Yeah.
But I never understood the implications of that, Like you hear it all the time, you're not your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Sure.
like, okay,
Sure. What does that mean? Yeah.
Like, and like, how can I use that?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Do you think there's like a point where, in the Matrix where it's like, you cannot wake up this person past this point?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Right?
I feel
It's
like
they're
too far gone. Yeah. There's those.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
or I don't know.
It.
Maybe they're too far gone, or it's just way too much work to bring them back. It's just.
Oh, okay, I got it. This actually ties into one of my topics, so I'm glad I have this up. All right, so this is so true. So I was talking to this person about my life being a video game, right? How I see the world, like, okay, and then one of the things in a video game is an NPC, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we reference it all the time. Oh, it's just an NPC, bro. Let it go, right?
Sure.
But all right, so if you don't know what an NPC is, it's a non-playable character, right? And then they were kind of like, how do you know what an NPC is in the world? And I was like, oh, it's just anybody that's not you. But I was like, no, because there are sentient people that I can talk to that I'm like, okay, I can talk to you because you're not an NPC. Like, you know who the NPC is, right? I think the NPC, if you want to really figure out who they are, is the ones who have pre-programmed scripts. And that's what an NPC is in a video game, right? When you talk to them, it's like they have a pre-programmed script that they just spit out to you, and then you choose your response, and they respond back with a pre-programmed script.
Mm-hmm.
But then how many people are like that in reality because they'll just hear something and then they're just repeating it back to you without any like critical thought?
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, check this out. So now I'm diving into the topics. So Canada recently okay, well, news is crazy because you don't hear any of this on social media, right? So my parents have cable, so like I'm like working away and they're like watching news, right? And then at the end of the day, I heard like Canada, like Trudeau signs bill for like admitting that AI is a threat, and I was like, oh, that's new. So then I googled the thing, and I found the article, so I like shared the article, and people just started like laughing at me, and I was like, oh, okay, NPCs, because like you don't like I was like I've been saying this for a while, like you just listen to the people that are wary about it. You know,
Yeah.
like you listen to opposing, it's like everyone like, oh, I love ChatGPT, it's amazing, AI is amazing, right? But then you listen to the counter argument, you're like, well, what are the negative aspects of
Sure.
that? And then you choose like which one do I agree with the negative aspects or do you agree with like the positive aspects? I don't know. So like because I'm an opponent of AI, because who wouldn't be if the most smartest person in the world, Elon Musk, is telling you you should be worried about AI, and then now everyone's like jumping on board, but they're like laughing at me for like, oh, huh. They were like kind of making fun of the article, right? Like, because basically where they're connecting is,
Or no
um,
regulatory restraints to AI. That's
yeah,
the
yeah. So they
they
just want
want
to add that in,
yeah.
yeah, right. So the summit is taking place in they wrote in the article like, an old hacking base outside of London.
Okay.
An old cyber hacking base outside of London is where they're going to have this summit, right? And then like I posted the article like, hey guys, you should all worry about AI. And then they were just laughing like they just cut out that one excerpt. Oh, this sounds like the perfect place for an AI convention, an old hacking place, haha. And then everyone started, ha 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 ha. And I was just like, oh, NPCs, you guys are not seeing what's going on. Like
Mhm.
you are not moving past this because you stigmatized in your mind any counter thought that's not pushed to you through like media narratives. You know what I'm saying? Like what is everyone else saying? I'm just gonna copy that. Even
Mhm.
if like there are counter arguments to
But
that.
right. But it was in the media though,
Yeah.
right?
But they hadn't caught like wildfire. So it had just signed that day. So it's like, okay, he's signing it, but I'm sure it's still gonna be fine. And I was like, yeah, laugh now, cry later, bro. Like you're going to you think until like all the headlines are AI is bad for you, AI is bad for you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Then they'll convert. They'll be like, oh, but it's just like one article. So they're trying to like still keep the old ideology of AI is good because I like AI by picking on the one thing that they think can like ridicule the article.
Right.
Do you
Okay.
know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay.
Like, even though it's like because it's only one article, so they're like, maybe Justin Trudeau's like
Wait.
a joke.
So
Maybe this, yeah.
they're using AI. They're using ChatGPT.
Oh yeah, they love it. Everyone loves ChatGPT.
Wait,
I'm like,
did
guys,
they not
I don't
realize?
know.
Yeah, but like if it's doing the work for them, doesn't that tell you that?
Where are your jobs headed?
Yeah, doesn't that just tell you that?
Sentience, bro. That's the thing. It's like, but that's what me and this other person were having a conversation about. It's like, why aren't they critically thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? That's crazy. You know, this person actually talked about um, how, how Canada. So we all love Canada, right? We love Canada. Canada's the best, right? And then he was like, oh, I'm attending this protest where the Canadian miners are just basically destroying my home country because they're taking resources, right? But
Okay.
I was like, oh, that's pretty counter to the narrative that we're all trying to say Canada's the best, right? Because we're all like, love Canada. And so I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, let me join this. So then I was like, your post reminds me of a podcast I listened to about green energy because we also love green energy. We love Canada. We love green energy. And I'm like, oh, like I heard this podcast about how like we need cobalt and we're going into these like small nations and destroying them without regulations in order to like feed our comfort levels with technology. I was like, here's the book.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone just ghosted us. They're like, this is too much for my brain. You know what I mean? You're just like, but these are real things, but you don't want to listen to it because it's like, it's too disruptive in your comfort,
Sure.
you know? And I think that's an NPC. Like going back to it, it's like if you want to know what, like there are people that are like playable characters, like first person playable NPCs think they're a part of the game. They are a part of the game, but they're being like led and programmed.
Sure. Okay.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But like, but you can tell who's quote unquote awake or like outside of the matrix when
Mm-hmm.
you see them thinking counter to the narrative that's being pushed out.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like
Instead
is
of following just an ideology, it's like it's a complicated world out there. Just you know what I mean? It's not like there isn't one
yeah.
ideology.
Like
There's reasons why these things happen, right?
yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. More like it's more like not we're seeing like all that stuff about the cobalt, but you know what I mean, like knowing that that's happening, but also like we still like our iPhones. Like we understand that world.
Right. And but that's why I always try and take like a Taoist perspective of it. It's like, well, we need the bad and the good, guys. You know what I mean? Like I was like, looks like there's no comfort without cost. I'm trying to like feed you both narratives at once.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like Libra's like balance, right? So like I'm trying to give you the good and the bad at the same time, but like they either only choose to look at the good or either only choose to look at the bad.
Sure.
Maybe that's what it is actually.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's the balance. Like if you can, so like ramifications, right? So if you understand that you are not your thoughts, you're the watcher of those thoughts, then what's the next step? It's like, okay, my ideas are not my identity. Then after that, it's like, how do you seek balance in this? Because like there is nothing that's like stationary. Like you can't name an only good thing that has no bad.
Mm-hmm.
Drink water. Okay, but too much water will kill you.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like exercise. Okay, but if you don't rest, your body's just gonna break down.
Mm-hmm.
Like we live in a constant state of like good and bad.
Yes.
With bad being a part of the good.
But it's all part of the
at all times,
balance.
good
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, totally. So we do love like our technology, but understand that these Congo people are being, you know, actually another part that I thought of, like in that conversation with that person, that he was bringing up was like change, and I was like, I know you're a big fan of like voting for change, and I was like, I don't think it's possible. I really think that like COVID really showed me personally that if the ones with all the money don't want you to do something, they're not going to get you to do it. So like dumb money, okay? So like the person hadn't heard of Dumb Money, but I was like, you should watch that movie. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're going down, right? But then they kind of force their hand where it's like, you're either going to pay me billions of dollars or we'll reduce it to 500 million, but you have to cancel the fact that people can purchase more shares of the stock. That was basically a pivotal moment in the whole Dumb Money case, okay? So it's like, maybe we are really just, I don't know, we talked about this before, like pawns in a game, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if they really don't want you to do something, I don't think we collectively can do it. Or maybe we can, and I don't know your thoughts. Like,
no, I think, I mean, like, you can look at, like voting wise does make a difference, right?
Right, but you're still playing the game. You're in the game trying to fix the game. So they say like you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking I was like Einstein said that you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that got you into the problem. So it's like, yeah, voting could work, but if the whole system is broken, then how does voting work?
Sure,
yeah,
I understand that. Yeah, in
But
that kind of case, I feel like, well, yeah, that's the thing, right? If it's not working for anybody or working for the people, then yes, there will be an uprise, right?
But okay. So now let's go back to NPCs. So if you can turn a bunch of people into NPCs, right? Actually, no, this is really interesting too. He brought this up as well. That one thing that we do to control people, he didn't say control people. I was like, oh no, that's just a control mechanism. So when do we go to the point of thinking that living to 100 but requiring multiple surgeries to do it was a good thing? What, isn't it better to live to your 50 but you have a good quality of life? Like, why do you need to live to 100 but then you're suffering through like 4 cancers and like 8 hip replacements? You know what I mean? Like, at what cost do you want to live forever, and why do you want to live forever, right? And then like, why do you need to like follow the nuclear family? Why do you need to do all these things, right? And then I was like, well, you know who made it that way? Marketers. That was our job. Our job was to sell you an idea, right?
Sure.
And it's like, going back to the change thing, but you can put people to sleep simply by making them believe certain things, right? And then you won't, because you were saying like, well, if it's detrimental to everyone, then we would uprise. But then what about climate change? That's detrimental to everyone.
Yeah.
But we're not fixing that.
Well, detrimental in
You
the
know?
sense like you have to feel you have to feel that, right?
Well, we see it the most wildfires.
Yeah,
Ever.
but we're not seeing that at no. I don't.
Worst.
I get that. But we're not seeing that as a whole collective.
Right. So totally. And but that's the sleeper thing. It's like if you pause the news, we don't get to see it. If we tell you, oh, that's far away, bro, don't worry about it, we don't get to see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like these are all the things that are disallowing us from painting the full picture and just being comfortable. They're just like, just sell them comfort as we're heading towards like an iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then there are the ones of us that are just like more mentally resilient, or that we understand we have a mind, you know, stuff like that. Just like, wait a minute, what's going on here? But then you seem like a crazy person because you're not comfortably asleep like everyone else.
Sure.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't think you can change because the masses are not thinking like the awake. They're all thinking like the asleep.
I think it depends.
Because he's like, I'm going to join a protest. He's like, I'm going to join a protest. I'm like, cool. What's that going to do?
Mm-hmm.
So really, what's it going to do? It's going to make you feel better, but okay, you're not doing anything.
Yeah, it doesn't change.
Like you're literally not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if the coal miner in your home country is like profiteering so much and they're destroying everything, like they don't care that you protested. So, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe if you like didn't buy the products, everyone started quitting, that would change something. But like, we don't want to give people the full narrative of life.
Right.
Right? Or
in some ways, yeah. There is going to be both sides, right? They're going to be the ones to manipulate, and there's going to be the ones to, you know, fight the manipulation too. That's just part of the whole life.
So, but then it's like we are just a herd mentality. It's like most of us are just NPCs. We are literally just herded animals.
I think yes, in that sense, yeah. But like, I feel like no one's in that level where they're that in a detrimental life. You know what I mean? Like, we're still pretty well off than most of the situations.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe it's the well-offness. Ooh, maybe it's the well-offness that is keeping us chained. It's the golden handcuffs. Because we sold you the idea of like massive debt, right? And through that, all you're thinking about is paying that debt off.
Sure.
Right? Like let's say you buy a house for $1 million. Then they're like, well, you know what you need with those houses? You need some children. Each child is like $500,000 each. Right? By the end of like them hitting 18. And then there's more things to pay for. And then like, oh, okay, well, gas prices are also going up, but you need that Lexus. You need that really nice car. You know what I mean? Like, and then through consumption, that's what are the golden handcuffs. And then you're just like indebted so much that you have no time to think about these existential things. You're just like, let me just get my paycheck and pay someone.
Yeah.
So maybe that was that's the true mental enslavement that's going on. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like the elephant that you just chain it when it's a baby, and then as it gets older, it doesn't need the chain anymore because it thinks that it's chained to that location.
Still chained. Yeah.
And they've been doing that to us for our entire lives.
Sure.
Can you see that? Like,
yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. This also like Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan's podcast and they talked about something similar. He was like, Elon was saying how there's like a mind virus sweeping through the nations right now. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe this is the thing. Like this is like what we're touching upon is that mind virus. It's like you don't need bars when you you don't need chains for your slaves when you know they won't run away.
Right.
Like even back in the day, remember like slavery times
Yeah.
during right? It's like, well, you technically could have just like escaped and ran away, but then you're thinking like, oh, they'll catch me. Oh, what about this?
Yeah. Or like no, or like
You
I
know,
mean
we don't.
like yeah, we don't. There's also the risk of I don't know what's going to happen after I leave. At least here, I've got some food, some sort of shelter,
Yep. Yeah.
right?
Yes, that's true.
So I mean, I'm saying that's
That's
like
true.
is both. I mean, both can be right too, right?
Like, what do you mean?
You
Oh,
could
you're helping one. Whoops.
yeah,
You're
it's
helping one
yeah, but it's
person.
like there's you're looking at yeah, you can survive here. You can still like you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
being like I still get food. Like I don't have to worry about these sort of things.
Right. Right.
But if I go
So it's like
free, there's the risk of being caught. There's a risk of like what the future is going to be like. I don't know, right?
so okay. So that's a very good point. So it's like maybe it's not even like the work that we were saying before. It's like you're gonna do the work to
Mm-hmm.
push your mind. Maybe it's like comfort. Like there's something there with comfort.
I
It's
think
like
so. Yeah, it might be.
you're not gonna leave a comfortable bed. It's not actually they don't want to work. It's just the level of comfort is just too much.
Mm-hmm.
That's like why would I want to care about this thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the only thing I fear about those people is like I don't like to build any connections with them or like really speak too much to them because I feel like there's going to be a breaking point. There's going to be a point in your life where you're going to realize something crazy and you're going to like have a meltdown.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
maybe at like but that's what the midlife crisis is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like or like I can't bring you on this like spiritual journey of um like a drug trip or something. You know what I mean? Like you know what I'm saying? Like how people are like, "Oh, oh, like psychedelics are really good for you." Not for you though. Like you're too embedded, don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can almost see the type of person that's like this will rock your way of life and that's not good because then you're just going to quit your job and then hate your kids and like go
Right.
do something else you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a level of yeah. That's more like where are they at their understanding of the world, or yeah, how
Yeah.
much they can
Yeah.
handle,
Yeah.
can't handle. Sure.
Yeah. Because there are certain like spiritual journeys that I still want to go on, like the ayahuasca one. Like that sounds so fascinating to me. Or like the DMT trip. They're both essentially the same, but like I wouldn't recommend that to everyone. Like if you because you don't know like psychedelic literally means mind manifesting. So whatever you're holding inside as a as like a trauma or something you're just trying to hide from, it will come to the surface, and you can't stop that from coming to the
Yeah, you
surface.
could have
You're
a
just gonna be faced with your
yeah, you
demons,
could have a psychotic break. That's the
which is what
a
people do.
risk.
And I think, yeah, totally. So, and when people are like, oh, like, okay, so people say that, like, I'm looking at these studies now, and I'm like, I think you're just totally wrong. It's like it's a symptom, not the actual thing. So people are like, oh, like marijuana will, like smoking marijuana has a direct link to diabetes. And I'm like,
Okay.
yes, because you get the munchies.
Okay.
But the marijuana itself is not giving you diabetes. It's what you're eating
Sure.
in like during that
Yeah.
state, right? So then also when they say like, oh, people who smoke marijuana at an early age, they have like potential for psychotic breaks. And I'm like, is it the marijuana or is it you realizing something you shouldn't have realized? And now you're like, oh crap, I can't unsee what I've seen.
I think it is I think that's the whole idea of having an age restriction on it because the brain isn't developed to handle those things.
Okay. Uh, yeah, but we were doing it when we were little kids. Like, it's not, it wasn't like when, okay, so like when, okay, let's go with something more legal and like tangible that we've all
Wait,
seen.
I don't know
So,
what was their age of the study though?
what are you talking about?
Like what young age are they talking about?
Below 18. like before their minds developed, like before. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So like kids, right? But I was like, but so many of us were doing it when we were kids. Just like, but let's go with alcohol. Let's go with alcohol. So like,
Sure.
oh, if you drink alcohol when you're a kid, it'll likely lead to alcoholism in the future. That's not true because in Italy, it's not everyone in Italy is an alcoholic. Because in European countries, kids will drink alcohol, like wine and stuff. It's just normalized. But I think what I think it is like guides. You need guides in life that have been there and they can tell you, bro, don't go down that path.
I can agree with the
You know what I'm saying?
guides.
Because
I can agree with the guides. Yeah, I'm saying if you
right,
don't have
yeah.
guides, yeah, that's probably
Oh
likely
no,
to
no,
get
for sure.
misused.
No,
Okay,
yeah,
I'll agree
yeah,
with that.
totally,
I'll
totally,
agree with
totally.
that. Sure. Yeah.
Right. But okay, okay. It's funny you said like, yeah, I agree with the guides. And that's why you need shamans. Shamans are people that have been
Hmm.
there very deep and they're like they can navigate through the waters um of like the mental break,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So if they see you tripping too hard, they're like, hey man, chill out. It's all good.
Hmm.
Have some chocolate. You'll be fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my god. All right.
Well, that's that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
That's the whole. That's
Well,
the whole point of a teacher, right? That's what that is. So.
for sure, for sure, for sure. But I feel like if you demonize the whole thing, then you're going to not allow people to develop into guides because there's no room to play in it.
Yeah, I understand that. That may make sense. Sure, but like it's
Okay, let me
okay.
let me give you a really great example. All right, this is so funny. If you're listening to this and you know exactly who you are, this is a funny story for both of us. So, um, I was acting as a guide for this one individual, and they're tripping hard. They like greened out, bro. Like they ran out of. Well, you were living here at the time, but you and Tara both at work. They ran out of the apartment, and they're like, "I gotta go swimming," and I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, come on, man. Let's just go to the pool. Like, I just gotta go swimming." And then I was like, "Uh oh, you're hitting those territories that like you don't know what's real and fake." But I was like, "Okay, I've been there, so like now, and I know that like it's just mind control. Like these things are like psychedelics again, like mind manifesting. Something in your trauma is like unearthing, and you don't know how to navigate this thing."
Sure.
Right. So what I said was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, we'll go in a second. We'll go in a second. Let's just watch this thing really quick." And like, "All right, cool, yeah. Don't worry, the pool will be there, bro. Let's go." And I'm like, "Oh, I think we should go for a walk." And then I was like, "Oh, I think we should go for a walk. Like it'll chill out." And then like this person's like, "Oh my god, dude, I'm like tripping. I'm tripping." I'm like, "Oh, that's funny because it actually ended like 3 hours ago." And they were like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "No, you're making this up, bro. The trip is gone. We're already done." And then when the trip had actually passed, then I was like, "No, I was lying to you." And he was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh, but see, it was all in your head."
Right.
Like, I was able to navigate the mind thing. But okay, so like speaking of guides, if you hadn't been there yourself, like, how do you know? Like, that guy freaking could have had a psychotic break. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
If I hadn't known where you were headed
Sure. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right? But like, but that's the illegalization, the demonization and illegalization of this thing. You have less people who've gone there and can bring you back. So like going back to like the European countries, like where kids can drink at like 12 years old or whatever, like wine and stuff, right? The parents are just like, chill out, bro. You just have one. You're
Hmm.
good. Oh, you're getting a little drunk. Chill out. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not like a negative thing.
Yeah. Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's almost like
You know,
with
I
the
agree with that. Sure. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Yeah. And like with the like the
Yeah. The
what do you call it?
stigmatization would cause more separation, like more of a
And then there's like
distrust
a
to it.
rebound effect.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you like it's almost like you don't allow something so much that when you finally allow it, they're like so excited and they go too far in. You're
Hmm.
like, maybe you didn't need to do that one. You could have just done like a couple. All right, so there's this like study. I don't know. This is more anecdotal study. Okay, so I heard Joe Rogan talking about this, but I've seen it firsthand. And I've heard about it firsthand. Going to Catholic school, right? So there are like some schools where it's like only girls, right? Like if you're in Catholic school world, there's like all girls
Sure.
school, all boys school,
Yeah.
right? And then like anecdotally, those schools have like the most
Okay. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? You know, I don't know how to say that politely, right? Like you know, but it's because you separated them. They don't know what this thing is. They have no idea. They don't know like what's good, what's bad, what should I do, what should I not do. They're just gonna go all in. Oh, and then you're working off like theories that your friends have, and you're like, oh, maybe
Yes. Yeah.
it won't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? And it's just like if you just normalized it from the beginning, we could have avoided this thing. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it has to do with like education level. Oh wait, hold on. I don't know if I want to go down this road. Screw it, whatever. If you're listening to this, cool for you. I won't cut this clip up, so you won't even have a chance unless you're just like a huge fan. You're just listening to this. Good for you. Thanks for listening to the podcast. But okay, so I went to a relatively low socioeconomic school,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what that means is like the parents probably weren't home. You're working hard for the money. This lighting is terrible. Eh? It's because of the sun.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of hurdles, right? Like you're left alone.
Sure. Yeah.
You don't have too many educational tools. But you went to a school that's like pretty up there in terms of economics, right? You and Tara actually went to the same school, so it's like what I went through. And the only reason why I went to that school is because it was a Catholic school. And my parents were like, you gotta stick with the Catholics. And like, I was just filled with like blacks and Filipinos, right? And there was like teenage pregnancy was not uncommon for me. It was not like, there's like, oh, I was just pregnant again. Okay, you're going to that school. All right, cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a school called, all right, you know what? It's whatever. You just easily Google this. So I went to Pope, and like that's where that was. But there was another school called Mother Teresa, and you just knew. So it was an all-girls school, and there was like teenage pregnancies left, right, and center there.
Okay.
But it's like, because I was saying like all-girls school, and then a lot of them, I think it was Mother Teresa. But anyways, so then a lot of them who would get pregnant at my school, Pope, they would move to MT because they had like a mothership program. So
okay.
you got
yeah.
You heard of this, right? You heard of this?
Yeah. Like,
have you heard of this?
Yeah. So, but they also like was it like a daycare too, or they didn't have a?
No, it's not a daycare, but it was like the hours. They had like a program that was adapted.
I think I heard of it. Yeah, I think you told me this before. But yeah. Okay.
Okay. So we all knew about that school, right? And it just wasn't weird. But then I was talking to Tara like recently or like a while back, and then I was like, yeah, like youth pregnancy is not uncommon for me. And she's like, oh, that's weird because like I only know one person who ever did that, and when they did it, they were like, oh, banished. You know, like, oh, that's weird. But like nobody banished this person. They were just like, oh, there's another teenage pregnancy.
Yeah, it depends on how normal it is. Yeah.
Right. But then if you look at the socioeconomics of, you know, both situations,
sure. Yeah.
It's like you probably had more money at your high school than, I'm trying to fix this light. You probably had more money in your high school versus my high school. Your parents are probably home. They probably put you in like after school programs, all that stuff. Whereas like there was nothing in my school. Right. So that goes back to like the demonization. If the knowledge was there, if the acceptance was there, if the understanding was there, you wouldn't have these like situations.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know, like alcoholism, drug abuse, teenage pregnancies.
I mean, like even with that, it's like because of the religion too. Like abortion is off the table. Yeah.
That's the other thing, right? Abortion's off the table. You're right. Yeah, because we're all religious. So if it happened, you're like, and if anyone even said abortion when we were like in high school, like you're a baby killer, bro. No, you gotta keep that baby. And it's like, bro, you're in freaking high school, bro. Like, how is this gonna work?
Right.
You know, but because we come from those like first, you also have to think it too. It's like the first we were the first generation. All of our parents were immigrants, you know, and back home, it's like, oh, you just got a baby, so we'll pay for it. Like the nanny will come, but it's like that's not how it works here,
mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So So like that mentality too, like all these different things, because of a lack of education, a lack of understanding, leads you down precarious paths, you know? Yeah. Maybe, you know what? That's what it is, man. The devil was right. You know, the devil was trying to get Adam and Eve to eat the apple. It's
Sure.
like, bro, I'm just trying to help you guys, man. You don't need to make me a demon. And then God was like, no, I need them to remain ignorant. Get out of my garden. Well, do you
True.
know the actual story of Adam and Eve?
Maybe, yeah, I think so.
You just like, okay, but you know what the first thing they realized was? Okay, check this out. Okay,
Okay.
okay, you know. All right, just let me tell the story.
Sure, yeah, tell the story.
Okay. So they're in the garden. They're naked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and God's just like chilling. He like leaves, and then the devil's like, "You should eat this apple." The apple is what gave God his knowledge, his understanding. So first, Eve eats the apple, and then she realizes she's naked. She's like, "Bro, I'm naked." What? So she covers herself up, and then Adam's looking for her, like, "Hey, where are you?" You know, and she's like, "Oh, I'm over here, but don't look at me because I'm naked." And he's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Oh, eat the apple too, so you'll understand what I'm like seeing." He eats the apple. They both realize they're naked. And God comes and they're hiding from God because they're naked,
Sure.
right? And then God's like, "What's wrong with you guys?" Bro, we're all just naked. And then they're like, "No, God, we're naked." And he's like, "Oh my God, you know the truth. Get out of this garden." So it all was like a sexual thing, bro.
Right. Oh
Like
yeah,
even
yeah,
from
yeah.
the
Right, right,
beginning,
right, right.
you know what I'm saying? It's like
Sure. Yeah.
that's why it's wild. It was like sexuality was like super demonized in Catholic culture,
Mm-hmm.
which is why you split the kids. Like this is all girls school, this is all boys school, you know.
Yeah.
But like all of that restriction led to suppression, led to, you know, all these other things. Because when you suppress emotion, that's where the problem is. Like if you don't cathartically let it go, it becomes like an inborn trauma. Not inborn. It becomes an ingrained trauma inside of you that you just haven't released yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then when you take a psychedelic, a mind manifesting drug, it pushes that like pushed down trauma to the surface. And you're like, now face your demon. And you're
Right,
like,
right,
oh
right.
my God. Right. Which is again why I'm like NPC shouldn't play this game. Cause like I could imagine if you had like a full family and then we're like, yeah, we're just going to like Peru to like, you know, trip on this thing. And then they come, they're like, oh, that sounds like fun. And they go home and they're just like, what did I build?
Right, right, right. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
imagine, right? And then they're like, oh, and then they link it to like, oh, see, like drugs cause psychological breaks. No, they don't, bro. They just show you what you've been trying to hide from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
which also kind of like, yeah, right?
No,
Right.
yeah. I think that's.
But
Wasn't there someone before? Like, it's not the drug; it's the person. Like, it's not the.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah. Don't blame the drug, bro. It's
Mm.
just you. Um, but like going back to the thing about like the diabetes, the the psychotic breaks, it's like I don't think it's the thing. I think it's literally just you don't know how to carry this thought. You don't realize that like there's a thing that like the mind is a tool. That's how I was able to help that person, right? That was like freaking out. I'm just
Sure.
like, okay, I know it's all in his head. So I'm just gonna
Mm-hmm.
say the thing that makes him think a thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely not the drug. All right. What are we in terms of time?
Oh, an hour and 17. Oh.
Oh, okay, nice. Oh, actually, I did have psychedelics on here as a talking point. Okay, let me ask you this. So what they're doing right now is okay. So independently, I want to get your input on this. So independently, they've been doing these uh, DMT studies.
Okay.
So there's a book called DMT, the Spirit Molecule. So we all believe that DMT, not we, the scientists believe that DMT is a gateway to something more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we make it endogenously within our bodies,
Sure.
right? Um, like we literally use DMT all the time, and it's in the book as well. It's like if you are let's say you're a scout and you're you're riding a horse, you're like looking at the area, right? So DMT would be the horse and then you would be the observer. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but what they've noted, and we release this at our point of death, and we release this while we dream. Okay. So what they've been doing is they've been like doing these DMT studies where they'd give it to someone and they'd ask them what they saw. Independently, they've noticed that other people are describing the exact same thing. Okay. And I've talked about this before too. If you read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it's literally, if you read the Tibetan Book of the Dead and DMT, the spirit molecule, they're describing the same thing. So Tibetan Book of the Dead is like the passageway towards death. Like as people are dying, they've written what they've seen, right? And that's basically what they did with like the DMT thing. It's weird because nobody put those two together. Like I've never heard that on a podcast yet about like those two books being the same. Anyways, so what they're doing now, because they have a hunch that there is something more to this reality. So what they're doing is IV drips of DMT, so you could stay in there for hours. And what they're doing is they're mapping out the spirit world.
Oh, really?
Through these long-term. Yeah, bro. Wild, right? Okay, so it sounds like this is the only time we've ever done this in human history. Incorrect. The Egyptians have books about the blue water lily that they did the exact same thing. They were literally doing what we're doing now. They would have these people go into the spirit realm, come back, write down what they're saying.
Right.
But they didn't have like our science, right? They didn't know how to like.
Sure. Yeah.
How do you screen for like potential errors, right? So what I'm wondering is, what if they find out that there is a different realm through this thing? Like independently, if people are describing the exact same, the only way you could do it is if like you're like, hey, let's meet at this marking point. We won't tell them where the marking point is, but we'll put it there, and they both end up in the same marking point. It's like, okay, you know that there's something there. Right.
Yeah.
So going back to the UAPs. So when they talk about interdimensional beings, and they talk about like how demons and angels could just be a part of UAP lore, like what if we find that out, that like these phenomena are from a different realm that we can access through these DMT experiences?
Sure, yeah.
That's a trip, right? When I heard that, I was like, wait a minute. Do we want to go down this rabbit hole? Like if you start doing like hours and hours of sessions of people going in and writing, coming back, writing what they see. Because the problem is like a dream. So it's like, you know, when you wake up from a dream and then you're like, I'll never forget this dream. And then it starts to like, you're like, what happened? Wait, what? So that's the same thing with DMT. And that's because like, that's how DMT works in our brains when we're sleeping.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is once they come out of it, they're writing down exactly what they're saying, or they're like telling somebody what they see. Right. And it is kind of weird that they're all kind of seeing the same thing, but they need more studies. They only need more trials. So yeah, wouldn't that be a trip?
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
That would be crazy. And people are like, oh yeah, you go somewhere where you die. And you're like, no, because me and you were like, no, it doesn't make sense, bro. Like when the brain's gone, where are you going to go? Like your brain is what's tethered. But maybe the brain is actually just an antenna for this thing. Or maybe it's like the Gundam suit that you jump in, you know, Gundam Wing.
Yeah.
You jump into like that suit. Maybe this is what our bodies are, you know? And then I was like thinking about this, like, why do we need to sleep? Like we're totally hypothesizing here, but like, do we go back to that realm? Like, is it like Avatar? When you sleep, you go back to your real realm, and we just can't be in these meat suits forever.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? And like, why is it? Well, why do you die if you have 3 days of no sleep? You have like a psychotic break if it's 3 days.
Yeah.
So what is that? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very excited to see where this is going to lead, especially with like the UAP thing and then the DMT thing. It's like, are we hitting this convergence where they're like, oh, this is what's been going on the whole time? Like as we sleep, there is a real life after death.
Right. But maybe not necessarily the way that.
No, yeah, like not like. You know, we're not going to like have a feast.
Or maybe it's just
something.
Maybe it's just the next world that we enter, right? Like a reincarnation.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, and like what level of reincarnation is it? Is it like, do we reincarnate back in this physical world, or do we enter a different dimension?
Yeah.
How many dimensions are there? You know what I'm saying? Like the whole thing that really got me was actually, it's funny because I was explaining this whole thing, and minus the DMT thing, but I was explaining like UAPs and how like yoga, UAPs, and ancient civilizations are all tethered together. And this person I was explaining to was having like a mind blow experience because I was like, yeah, that's like, because like, where does yoga come from? Ancient lore. Why is ancient lore like when you look in ancient lore, it's like, why are these buildings so big? And then when you get into that, hold on one second. Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
once I gotta wrap this up. And then when you get into like these structures that are all looking the same all around the world, you're like, what is that?
Right.
And then you get into like UAPs, like, did they help them build this thing? Like, I feel like there's a big question mark in our entire history that we're all like running towards trying to figure out what it is. And I think that like we now know that science is not helping. History, like archaeology helps, but like our narrative of history is not what we thought it was.
Not solid. Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what I really love about One Piece? There's a person called Nico Robin in there. Their entire mission. So there's like a blank space in history where like we don't know what happened in One Piece, but like we just all woke up into like this reality of like pirates and stuff. And like what her mission is to figure out through these tablets that are like around the world about like what the truth is about our reality.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to see. Like, I like that the writer of this brought this in there because this is literally what we're going through right now. It's like, why do these pyramids all look the same? But we're supposed to have not been sharing information at that time.
Right.
You know, why do we have UAPs that people are saying it doesn't look like they're coming from a different planet, but they're definitely here?
Mm-hmm.
So then we're like, oh, interdimensional beings. And then why do we have like DMT discoveries now?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think we're gonna answer it soon. I think we're gonna know. Well, some of us will know, and then the NPCs will be
Sure.
like, you know,
Yeah,
that's so ridiculous.
It depends on how much it
Yeah.
affects our world.
Yeah, that's true. Or maybe we just wouldn't be afraid of death. We'd be like, you know what, whatever. There's another life out there.
Yeah, I mean that would be a good. I guess. Yeah, that might be a relief for some people. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Okay. I have to wrap this up. Is there anything else you want to go over? Anything you thought was interesting?
No, nothing really happened other than that quick Apple thing.
The Apple thing? I'm pretty excited about that though. Hopefully the price stuff does go down and the pros aren't like $3,000. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think I don't remember the price. But I think there was an M3 for just an M3 normal M3 for the MacBook Pro. So that should be a little bit cheaper than the like an M3 Pro and M3 Max versions. So
okay, cool. Yeah, we'll look into that. All right, till next week. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.
Bye. All right, hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors, Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.